Hey, it's Chelsea. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in and being a part of the Quiet Connection community. Did you know that you can support me and gain exclusive perks by subscribing to my Patreon account? By becoming a subscriber, you'll get access to bonus episodes, ad-free listening, exclusive chats, and even monthly goodies in the mail handmade by me. Your support helps me continue creating high-quality content and ensures that we keep spreading awareness and ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and so much more. Head on over to Patreon, search Quiet Connection Podcast, and join the community of listeners who are helping me make this podcast the best it can be. Welcome to Quiet Connection, a podcast dedicated to ending the stigma around postpartum mental health. I'm Chelsea. Today, I'm joined by Melissa, a mom, caregiver, and former CNA who has walked through some of the toughest seasons of motherhood and life. From C-section recovery to caring for her father, mother, and husband through their various health challenges, to raising her daughter during the pandemic. Melissa shares openly about balancing grief and joy and how she's found peace through faith, self-care, and community. This is an episode full of honesty, resilience, and hope. Here's Melissa. Hello! Today I'm here with Melissa. Melissa, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, Chelsea. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited to have you. I'm always super excited when Um, I'm always excited to connect with everybody, but I get that like extra little glimmer when it's a guest who has like reached out through our email or through our website, or which you did, and I was like, oh hey, it's people actually know it exists. So thank you for that. Well, like I always say, rather than listing off things about you that I have learned, I would love it, and my listeners would love it, if you could sort of let us know, who is Melissa today, and then who were you before you became a parent?
Well, today I'm the busy mom to an energetic 6-year-old who we just actually found out yesterday that she has improved and she's moving. We just finished the first week of school and she's getting promoted to first grade on Monday.
My
She
goodness!
did junior kindergarten and kindergarten. And then at the end of last year, they were saying that she was just not quite where she needs to be with maturity and confidence and things like that. But they've noticed a change in her even within the first week because obviously, she has a different teacher, but the principal and the specialist teacher are still continuing to very much work with her, and they were just thrilled. So they're like, you know what, she's actually advanced now than her peers, so let's bump her up into first grade. And I really like that they were just so careful with choosing a teacher that, because there's two options, and since math is kind of a struggle, they did mention that this and there's a new, I guess, math curriculum and everything now, and so this teacher is very well skilled in it with handling it with the kids. So she said that would be a great fit for our daughter. So, but so that was really cool. So I'm on cloud nine. So I actually have to
Yeah!
go shopping for a few more school supplies today for Monday because but we moved what we could from her kindergarten classroom, but there's a few other tools that they need, things they need for what she'll do in first grade. So I have a first grader now. So I'm like, so
It's exciting.
yeah, and moving her up at church too. We're gonna have her moved up into the first through sixth grade program too, because the whole thing, like when your kids go through a season, you want that to be kind of cohesive across, So they're with their same peer group, and she's so excited because she missed her both at school and at church. She's been really missing her friends that did progress. And obviously I really like how our principal put it yesterday of like, I don't like using the word held back, just need more time. And so,
Yeah.
we were wanting to give her more time in both areas, but now we're moving forward and they're hitting the gas and moving forward. So like, okay, so that's been very exciting. Before I was a mom, I was a full-time certified nursing assistant. Worked primarily in long-term healthcare facilities. I did that up until my husband and I were married, and even after we were married for several years. And I was just your average, 20 to 30 something year old, depending on what time age range between before we actually had kids, that you would expect. Worked hard. I love a good Jane Austen movie. I love to knit. I love to I've gotten into adult coloring with some adult coloring books that my husband has gotten for me, both Downton Abbey, and then I found some recently that I'm really loving that actually have Bible verses in them. So that's very calming
Nice.
and encouraging. And then some other ones just for stress and anxiety because I am prone to stress and anxiety. But who isn't?
Right.
But
Yeah.
right, yeah. So that's kind of in this spiel, and then between that, in between all those things, switching from a healthcare career into an online career. And even as we speak at the time of recording this, I'm actually transitioning from my business model that I had. I'm kind of pulling back on that because it's not working as well as I thought. And I'm shifting into doing some other stuff on the side. So freelancing, things like that. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, lots of stuff across the spectrum of who I am, but it's definitely there's things that are still the same from when I was before I became a mother, but then there's obviously things that have changed since I have become a mother. So
Yeah, it seems like a season of shifts for you and your daughter right now. But you got a really good outlook on it. And you're already listing these tools, these coping skills that are helping you navigate these changes and these shifts.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting too. It's like I just turned 40 a couple months ago too, on top of it. So heading into that decade now, and just being very mindful of my health. I'm
Mm.
also a primary caregiver for my husband too, which I've been for 6 years now. So that component too on my plate is something. So for being diligent. I think the thing with like any season, just being diligent about what you need in that season. So for me, it's I love Leslie Sanson. She's not doing any videos now, but I have her whole collection. I've been collecting her walk at home videos, and just prioritizing those 45 minutes a day to do workouts, and working with my leveraging other tools like with my insurance, the current insurance I have now, they have this perk with it's called the Hinge app, and there's all these amazing exercises, and plus I get a health coach, I get a physical therapist,
Oh, wow.
and finally getting to address 6 years postpartum, almost 7 years postpartum, but that's
Yeah.
okay. My pelvic floor and healing that. And so, with each subsequent season comes different needs for your body, be it physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And I'm so thankful I have I'm being blessed with resources to help me managing those, like you say, coping mechanisms in a healthy way, for whatever outward stresses and things like that that I'm being hit with.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you mentioned too that even though it's 6 almost 7 years later, we can still work on those things left over from that postpartum period. Um
Yeah.
as unfortunate as it is that they didn't get addressed immediately, but let's go back in time a little bit. Speaking
Okay.
of postpartum,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
even before
Okay.
that, did you always imagine yourself as someone having kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew by the age of 10 very vividly. I don't know what sparked it, but I knew at 10 I wanted three things. To be in the health I would be in the healthcare industry in some way, shape, or form. I would be married, I wanted to get married, and I wanted to have children. Now, initially I thought I wanted to have 2 to 4 children, but because my husband is so cute. He knows I love Jane Austen and a lot of the heroines at the time, because the only profession back then in the 1700s, early 1800s, was to marry well, to help support your family. Otherwise, you became a spinster and you were at the mercy of, very good friends, family, or even just your relatives, like your brothers, to take care of you and support you. Otherwise, you had nothing to support you to live off of. And so my husband's so cute. He's like, oh, she's just following her Jane Austen novels or movies because there is that age gap. Because it was not uncommon for back then for a girl of 17, 18 to marry a man of 35. So for me, it meant at 26, I married a guy that was 45, that turned 45 2 days before our wedding. So, not the most conventional, but so there's an almost 20-year age gap between us.
Yeah.
But I would, but it doesn't matter. He considers me an equal. we're a good team and we make it work, and I'm okay, I'm just living it out.
Yeah. My paternal grandparents were 20 years apart in age, and they had one of the most beautiful marriages I mean, they yes, anyway, age is not a
Just a number.
determiner. No, it's
Yeah, and I'm
just a
not saying it
number.
works for everybody. I mean,
No.
you have to make it work. But I think it's been so good for us, because with my husband, I'm from a very stable background, and not to say that what he went through as a kid is any way, shape, or form his fault, but I love that being with my family has allowed him to have some stability and get a new perspective. And I've been so proud of him for how he has evolved, and me too. Now it goes both ways, but for him especially, just to just grow and learn in a new way, and be
Yeah.
open and be so open minded, because that's the thing with a marriage, right? Or any relationship, right? It has to be a kind of an element of some give and take. It can't be just one and done.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. I love that you mentioned that too, because it does. It's like a little wink from my grandparents too. Age is just a number, but that does. It's interesting. It may impact how you discussed having a family. So like,
Oh
was
yes.
that something that?
Actually, it did. Well, 2 for 2 reasons. One, obviously the age gap. My husband was
Yeah.
in his mid-40s, I was in my mid-20s when we got married, and we started trying within 6 months of when we got married, because I also already knew in the pipeline I'd always had irregular cycles, and I still do. It's kind of leveled off somewhat later in my 30s and 40s, but is still there. So that was kind of just a thing in my mind, and I'm glad I went there, because it did take us some time. We did find out that when we tried for a year, year and a half, and nothing was happening. We figured out that I had some infertility issues with my regular cycles, possible PMS. We never figured out, PCOS. We never knew for sure. Um, and obviously the testing and what you can go, the whole gamut and route you could go down, IVF and things like that. That was just crazy. So that led to my husband getting tested. They were worried that his sperm count wasn't good, or that his the shape, which made was going to make it difficult for him to actually fertilize an egg. So that's when they were thinking about doing, like, a procedure. It's a step down from IVF. I cannot remember the
IUI?
name of it.
Is it
IUI, yes,
IUI?
doing
Yep.
IUI to
Yep.
help us, but even that was expensive. So we went for the less evasive and less expensive route of what we could do, is doing a mix of Clomid and progesterone. And oh, that was horrible.
Mm,
Progesterone, to keep my cycles regular, Clomid to make sure I ovulated. Lots of lab appointments, which I was already used to getting poked and prodded a lot because of my hypothyroidism, because I have to do lab draws for that. So, but that led to a whole gamut of, a 6-year long battle of struggling. And then, but what did it though is that I started having a lot of digestive problems. And so I actually went vegan, about 5 to 6 months before we got pregnant. And that
mhm.
did it. I
Wow.
dropped 30 pounds, and we got pregnant. And pregnancy went pretty well up until the second trimester, but then I started about week 33, I think it was, or 32. I started measuring 2 weeks ahead on my fundal height, so we knew something was wrong. So then we started going to the specialist, and then that's when they figured out, I had all this extra amniotic fluid. I had two tests to test for gestational diabetes, but obviously the test can be wrong, or can come
Mhm.
back with a false positive or false negative. That's probably what happened, because I just kept. I mean, by the time we had my C-section, my scheduled C-section, because my daughter also went transverse, stubborn kid.
So did mine.
Yeah, and so we had to have a scheduled C-section. So then that made postpartum even crazier, because here I was having major surgery, and then the digestive problems continued. Then we were hit with my husband starting to get sick in December of 2019, before our daughter turned 1 in January of 2020. Then we had the pandemic.
Yeah.
Then the digestive problems kept getting worse. I kept going back and forth between a regular diet and my vegan diet, and nothing was working. And then I started having more food intolerances, which led to, fast forward to December of 2021. I finally, after a year of testing and everything else, we finally diagnosed me with IBS.
Mm.
It's been a lot of I've taken and then I have a skin disorder on top of that, but I was diagnosed last fall. So, there's been a lot of things going on with my own health on top of my husband being sick with diagnosed with, epilepsy, and also he gets stress-related seizures,
Mhm.
and then raising our daughter and trying to get some income coming in consistently the way I need with work, even with my online career, even though it hasn't gone the way I thought, and feeling the pressure from family or friends, like, "You need to do something," but the priority is I need to be at home with my family because my husband's very adamant. He wants me to be the one to take care of him. And he wants our daughter to be taken care of by me because childcare is just like it's at that point of like it would be it, I pretty much would just be paying for just childcare and a caregiver if I went back to work. We
Yeah.
wouldn't be making any extra profit plus that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and just still feeling like there's something for me to give. It's different, but
It is
yeah.
different. You're a self-described caregiver, and it really does sort of, like, permeate into your whole life. Like, you were a CNA, which we love CNAs, we love nurses in general, especially my family. The nurses are the unsung heroes in the medical field, as are the CNAs and as are the everyone in between. But caregiving in general just feels kind of or sounds like it feels like your calling.
It
So,
does. It
yeah.
does. Well, and I've done it it's interesting. I did it professionally for 15 years, primarily in long-term care facilities, elderly and dementia patients. They're the forgotten generation, and I loved it. I loved it was such an honor to work with those families at the what I call twilight years, the last years until they go
Yeah.
to be a light to them. And then personally, I cared as a family, my whole family, we all worked together to took turns taking care of my grandmother until she passed the last 2 years of her life. And then she would move around to different houses. And like with my parents' house, like the house that I live in now used to be my parents before they passed. And so they would bring grandma here for 2 weeks. And then we would just update the team about where she was going to be. And they would come and make house calls and visits here, which is great. So that was up until she passed in May of 2018, my grandmother. But then again in December 2019 was when my husband started showing symptoms. And so I started taking care of him, and that's still been ongoing. But then my mother passed away in September of 2021. And so
Mm,
then we moved in with my dad into the house where we're at now, and I took care of him up until his last breath um,
yeah.
in July of 2023. And so I've done this a couple times. So,
Yeah,
but
you've
I'm
been through
thankful for my
this.
professional experience because most caregivers, they don't have the benefit of a medical certification or medical training experience to fall back on. That has saved my hide. And especially in caring for my husband. I mean, every caregiving situation between these three different family members have obviously been way different. But the skills that you need to do it, managing medications, triaging symptoms, communicating with doctors, creating progress notes, I mean, the skills are all the same.
Yeah,
You're just watching out for different things when you're doing it. So,
absolutely. And it sounds like too so I know that you said, like, you were doing this obviously professionally, but then even in your personal life. So just before you had your daughter, and then then you're dealing with having a C-section, having pregnancy symptoms that are
mhm,
challenging for you,
yeah.
while you are also being a caregiver, while trying to advocate for yourself. How did that impact that as well as the C-section? How did that impact your vision, the vision you had of what motherhood was gonna be like when the reality sunk in?
Right. Well, that first year, 2020 just totally ripped the rag out or the rug right out underneath us. It totally changed what we thought. Because when I was pregnant, when we found out we were pregnant, we immediately started thinking, okay, how are we going to make this work? Because we knew we couldn't pay for daycare. We didn't want to do it because around where we live, it's as much as like a rent payment, or a mortgage payment. It's
Yeah.
expensive, and we're just talking about one kid. I don't know how people pay for daycare for 3 or 4 children. It's ridiculously expensive. Oh my word. So we started figuring out, okay, what are we going to do? So we decided I'm more of a morning person. So I started working day shift, and then my husband went on swing shift. And he likes that anyway. So that works out. So then that we could overlap by like half an hour. So I could get home, he could get the baby and the bouncer, and then I could shower, or whatever, and then just take over and he could go to work. So we started doing that because, we just started anticipating that. But we did okay after we initially brought our daughter home. But then when he started having symptoms. That was a problem. He had more episodes. By April of 2020, we were having a real problem because that was the first month he had 10 to 20 plus seizures.
Mm,
The first month that happened. And then so I was, I'm still, I was a year postpartum then, but the problem was I was dealing with all the digestive problems. So it was all those extra trips to the bathroom, which was now I know was my IBS, because it was not
yeah.
under control. And so trying to deal with that, and then stress makes my condition worse. Both of our conditions, stress is the biggest symptom or trigger that you have to
Yeah.
keep down. So it's not so bad. But it was through the roof with everything going on because we were all dealing with the pandemic too,
Mhm.
and oh, so it was just insane.
Yeah.
And my mother was struggling with health too. I mean, she was in kidney failure, so she was on dialysis treatments, and so there was just so much going on top of
Yeah.
everything else that we were dealing with as a world nation, nationally, statewide, nationally, and worldwide with the pandemic because it shut everything down and was rewriting the book on everything that we could normally do. So here I am, a first time mom dealing with health, dealing with now two chronic illnesses. I hadn't had the diagnosis of my skin disorder yet, and caring for my husband who has incurable chronic illness, being a first time mom. It's like, I was just, I mean, I'm a religious woman, but still, that I still had those moments like, how much more shit can we take?
Yes.
Seriously, because it was so bad. It was like, Lord, I know you have a purpose and a plan for us because I firmly believe that, God doesn't give you the desires of your heart for no reason. So for a 10-year-old girl to know that I wanted to be in the healthcare industry, which I had done, get married, I had done, and then to be a mother, I had done, but I didn't ask for all the other stuff that goes with it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. And so it was just crazy. It was just crazy about how much the deck was stacked against. And the irony too about with my parents, it was more reverse. My mom was the one who was sick from the time she was 20, I believe, until she passed away at 70. And so and so daddy was very much used to taking care of mama from a young age. And kudos to him. I mean, he just did it with the patience of Job, and the,
Yeah.
faith of Jacob. I mean, he would just, really, I can remember because he used to be a pastor for 33 years. So I remember he would work, long days because of the pastor. You're not always in the office. You're out attending to the sick, and talking about stuff, writing a sermon and doing outreach stuff to minister to the community and help out in that capacity. So he would be in and out and gone all day, come home, make dinner, help get dinner on the table, take care of mom, but then only to get a call saying that someone had been in an accident and they were needing some faith support, which is his job, and
Mhm.
he loved his calling more than anything. To go to the hospital or their home, wherever the situation was, and then he'd come back like maybe at 10 o'clock midnight now. But he did it. He made it work. And here I am. I'm kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, that role
I may
reversal
not be a
like you said.
pastor, but the role reversal, and so I gather so much strength from that example of just really
Yeah.
trying to make it work. It's
Well,
not
those are
easy.
no, and
Yeah,
those are both caregiving roles. Those are both
yeah,
so to hear you say that you take a lot of like inspiration and you hold a lot of respect for that. Like it really does mimic. You say you're not a pastor, but you are administering care to those around you and those who love you, and that you love. And my question is where are you in all of this? Like, this is the worst question in the world that I hate that everyone asks, moms especially, is like, well, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Because your first thought is, when?
yeah.
When am I
Yeah,
supposed to take
and I
care of
didn't. I'm gonna be
myself?
just brutally honest, y'all.
Yeah.
I did not. I mean, I totally it took me. I'd say it wasn't until it was in 2021, 2022 started the process of working on myself. It started with working with I hired for a short time a Christian life coach that I really loved because I was really growing in how figuring out. It took me 30 some years, but I finally figured out about because I'd always been inconsistent. Even being a former pastor's daughter, I was just very inconsistent with my devotional time.
Mhm.
Knew I needed to do it, but I was never able to find what works for me. But figuring out that just reading a little bit of scripture and like a passage, not trying to read the whole chapter. No one can remember a whole chapter, but what I really started learning from that, and I still actually do this to the day, and I've really started leveraging the Bible app for this, but you're taking devotionals on that off there, and I choose ones that specifically relate to journaling. I love to journal, so and
Mm.
this is something I remember from my mom too. I don't know if she did it this way, but I do remember she used to write out prayers. So she would be at the dining room table, have her Bible, her study tool, whether it's a devotional series or a book or something, and then she'd have her notebook and she'd write prayers. And that has helped me so much because I'm sorry, y'all, my mind will just wander and I will go to sleep if I try to just sit and pray this way. But writing really actually helps. And then it also helps me just get other stuff out. And so the one I'm doing right now, it's called Peace in 5 Minutes, or Daily Peace in 5 Minutes, or something like that. And it has a verse. It's been the same verse for the whole series, but she keeps sharing it because she's trying to get us to memorize it. And so every morning I practice writing it out and see how much I can get without making a mistake. And I finally am just about there where I have it memorized. So that way I can have it for another, for when I do have those moments of stress and anxiety. And so that's been great. And then the way this one is, she has like a prompt where she basically kind of is sharing the concept of something. And then she has a prod where she basically gives you kind of like a journal question or two to journal on. And then she has praise where you listen to a song that is goes along with that. And that I just love because that's when I'll start, because when I'm listening to that, that's when I do the last section, prayer. I just start writing out prayers of what I'm thinking on, kind of journaling on, brain dumping, if you will, what is kind of coming to mind with looking at those questions. And that just really helps because I just build on it because I like doing series like that where it builds on one thing to another. And I have learned so much, and just figuring out that things that's the way I best learn and study is just little snippets, 3 to 5 verses, maybe even just one verse for a month, and then like different ideas and perspectives on a topic or a subject, and then just learning about it, kind of journaling, kind of, just communicating with the Lord that way. That's what really works well for me. So spiritually and mentally and emotionally, I'd say that's what really works. But then also reconnecting with my hobbies. Like it took me until about, I'd say, like I said, 2021, 2022, well, probably more like 2022, before I really got into knitting again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been doing that since I was 10. So reconnecting with your past passions that light you up, even before you, like you say, came up with all these different roles, quote unquote roles.
Yeah.
That has been really helpful. And then taking on new ones, getting into adult coloring, I actually am loving. My husband bought me this beautiful, huge, double-ended tip coloring set, and then we've been having fun. And my daughter too, because it's something I can do with my daughter. We like to
Mm-hmm.
color together. So she does her Disney cartoon type books, and then I've been really getting into, like I say, like Downton Abbey ones, or uh, calm/stress ones that are specifically with the idea of like the coloring is like for stress and anxiety, or like now finding ones that are actually Christian based, Bible based, where they have verses or scenes and stuff that are calming. And that's been helpful. And then also, too, something else I'm just getting started with. I mentioned the Hinge app earlier that I'm doing through my insurance to work on wellness. That way, we're getting working with my physical therapist and uh, and my health coach, leveraging different exercises. So I do my 45-minute walk and home cardio workouts, like I said before, but then I'm also pairing there's meditations on there that I'm going to try. And then also, I really love what I can do with the app working with my PT therapist. She can actually create kind of a greatest playlist, I guess, if you will, of
Cool.
exercises, because I have a certain allotment each week or each day that they suggest. But then as I go, if there's exercises that I'm like really liking, or that I really want to just like I really want to push myself. I want to work on these better. So I would like them to, but they're kind of here and there in different workout regimes. So we started a thread where she's like, okay, tell me which exercises that you really like and want to work on, and I'll throw them in your playlist. That way your playlist will grow with just the specific exercises that you want to come back to and keep going on. Because I love with these exercises too is that, or this app is that they give you like the first instructional of like how the exercise is supposed to look. But then they also give you a second one with which they call modifications.
Mm.
So if you're like starting at zero, like with your pelvic floor, like I am all the damage, C-section, 6, 7 years
Yeah.
postpartum, that's okay. They give you an easier modification version. Or like I love too, they also give you a version for advanced. So like let's say you've mastered you've gone past the modification phase, you can do it like the way they actually expect you to if you are a little bit more stronger and fit and capable. And then they take you a step beyond that. So they don't want you to, so they really make it to wherever you're at or whatever goal you have, there's an option for you. I mean, I haven't lost a ton of weight, but I've gotten strength from it. And if nothing else, it's good
Right.
for my mental health and it's helped me maintain my weight. And with my health coach and PT therapist, now they're like, okay, you know, I feel like that's the season now where, okay, well, let's see if we can control these IBS symptoms so we can kind of start tackling that. So, you know, it's okay if
Yeah.
it's taken a few years, but I'm getting there. And because the overall goal is I want to be here for the long haul, for my little
Absolutely.
girl and my husband. So,
Absolutely. I think what I love so much about everything that you just described is that it's like multiple modalities of not only self-care, but just like health care and health
hmm
maintenance. And it sounds like faith is definitely like the anchor in which
yes,
a lot of your like peace and healing and comfort comes from, but you also have this immense toolbox full of things that help you navigate I mean, the stress like you said, you were kind of thrust into motherhood, in a perfect storm. Like, again, reiterating COVID, it was a COVID times, and your husband was struggling with a new diagnosis, and you're going through your own diagnoses, and you had a C-section, which I anyone who ever says that a C-section is the easy way out is
no,
no, absolutely not. Um, the recovery from a C-section is so insane, and I can't imagine going through that while also balancing everything else. So I'm curious, again, like you said, you went through challenges towards the end of your pregnancy, and you had these wonderful coping skills, but these are things that you're developing and that you're getting more comfortable in now, 6 or 7
yeah,
years later. When you were newly postpartum and when, like, you had just had your daughter, what ooh, how do I even word this?
just spit it out.
I'm just
Spit it out,
just
girl.
say it how you feel it.
Just say it.
Um,
I can see you're overthinking. Your brain is working way too hard for your
my
own
god,
liking.
that's my OCD. But, like, what really tethered you in those moments? Did you find it difficult to step into motherhood? Like, you're physically recovering. Every birth is a physical recovery, but you're
Yeah.
physically recovering from major surgery, and you're also caregiving, and you have a newborn. Having a newborn in general is completely life altering. Um, what what was your mental health like at that point? How were you feeling about motherhood?
Honestly, no. I mean, I felt, I did kind of feel like Jonah, where where you just kind of spit out, from the whale, after being disobedient. Oh, not to say that it was disobedient, but just kind of going like, "Phew, here you
Yeah,
go." And it's like,
figure it out.
figure it out. Uh, honestly, I don't know, because there was just so much going on, if that makes sense. I had
Yeah.
so much going on, recovery, trying to get back on track with my digestive. That was, oh, that was fun. 2019 wasn't too bad, but 2020 was where, crap was really starting to hit the fan. So we were dealing with the pandemic. We were trying to be so careful, because we were both frontline workers. My husband worked in a gas station, which he still does to this day. And then I was a CNA, so I'm around and I'm dealing with, just concern about not only my family, but the other families that we're serving because we had shut down. And so it was horrible for the patients because they were isolated. They couldn't even
Mm,
eat together. They were eating in their rooms. We had to gown up every time we went in. I mean, it was just such a different time. And some of them really went downhill because of that, which was so sad to see. So it I don't know. It's definitely by the grace of God I got through that point. I don't know how I did, but I did.
Do you
And
feel like you ever even got to do you feel like you just kind of were, like, not coasting because coasting sounds easy, but you were just kind of, like, riding the roller coaster? Like, you didn't
I
even
think
have
so, but I
time to
did
think
burn
about
out.
it.
By
Yeah.
2021, by end of 2020 into 2021, I was burnt out though, and that's when I started dealing with my life coach and everything because I was done. I mean, there was just so much going on, trying to get my business going, health, taking care of a 1-year-old, dealing with a chronic illness I'd never had experience with in my 15-year career in healthcare. Concerned about my mother and my father and their health, and my father had chronic health issues too, obviously, but he was
Mhm.
putting those aside to care for mama. And, I
Yeah.
couldn't physically help because, COVID. So, yeah, there was just so much going on. It was insane. There was just so much going on. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and for everyone, but, like, for you, like, I just keep coming back to this perfect storm reference,
it
like, it
was the
just
perfect storm, and it
right?
still
Like
is the perfect storm. I mean, it's not
yeah.
over.
No, it's not, and again, like, so I as a fellow chronic illness and recently disabled warrior, it doesn't stop and it doesn't slow down, and as mom, we're kind of just expected I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of people, we're kind of just expected to set our needs aside
Yeah,
and yeah, and but that I think is why I love that so much of what you focused on so far in our chat is all of the ways that you are dedicating time to yourself, even if
I
it's
need it. There's
small.
no way I'm gonna
Yes.
survive because and I was actually talking to my husband about this the other day, is that, you know, if I don't want there's statistically, caregivers, are prone to become patients very quickly, because of all the stress and energy they pour out to caring for their loved ones, and it can take them down.
Mhm.
I don't know when my husband will pass. I don't know when I will pass, but probably statistically, he will go before I will, and then I'll still be here with our daughter. I mean, ideally, I want him to be here till she's grown,
Mhm.
you know. But I still want to have gas. The big thing is I want to still have gas in the tank.
Yeah.
After I'm done caring for him, and be able to be present with with our daughter, and if she's in the season where she's having children, or even if she doesn't have children, just to be present with her and
Yeah.
soak up whatever time I have with her. So, I don't want to be a statistic. I really want to, because I already have 3 chronic illnesses under my belt too. So it's like, you know what? I don't want to be taken down. So,
I I admire that so much, I do. I'm still like, this is not about me and this is not my time, but I'm still in the early stages of this whole thing, so that mentality is hard to hold on to, so I do
yeah,
admire that. I do admire that, and it also sounds like you mentioned it before, like, doing things for yourself that you can also include your daughter in, like the coloring. I know you kept saying adult coloring, and all I wanted to like, I kept wanting to be like, "It's just coloring!" Like, coloring is color. You can color, it doesn't matter how old you are, but I understand what you mean with, like, the content of the books that you're
yeah,
coloring in. But,
yeah.
like, you're modeling for your daughter that even when things are really challenging I mean,
Hmm.
your daughter's never known life any other way, like,
No, I
no.
mean, she can, when she was 1, she would cry, and when daddy would have a seizure, 'cause she didn't understand what a seizure was.
Yeah.
And but the sweetest thing I remember a few times where she would come up, and like, I would need to be taking care of him, giving him his rescue medication, or calling the doctor, or calling the EMTs and saying this is what happened when he fell, or whatever. She would just come up and just stroke his head.
Mm.
That was her way of trying to make daddy better. But yeah, she's known no other life, and so that's hard. And I've known no other life either with my parents growing up. I mean, my mom was very active with me, growing up. I mean, dad would be the one that would go out and like throw a basketball in the hoop with me, or
Yeah.
play a game of catch with me with our baseball mitts. But mom was the one that would still, who would get me up every morning, even if she'd had a horrible night. She with her fibromyalgia or whatever, she'd get up and do my hair or get me through my bath, save all my school papers and do school time with me, to help me practice, and reinforce the mistakes I made. She was very invested, even though she was very sick, and I knew no other life except. I mean, there was obviously times where she was a little more healthy and wasn't feeling as bad. But yeah, I knew no other life either, and my daughter, she knows no other life.
Yeah.
But I wanna make it as good for her as I can.
Well, and it
So,
sounds like you are. Like I said, like what you're setting this beautiful example for her that things can be hard, but they can also be okay. It's
yeah,
okay. And like you said, like coloring together, even when you're burnt out and you're completely spent, you can color. You could just sit next to each other and color. Or and celebrating these wins that are they sound like little wins, but they're huge wins, like moving up to 1st grade. That's a huge win, and, like, honoring that and celebrating that. So I just think from the sounds of it, and obviously with all my guests, I've only known you from the time that we've said hello until the time that we say goodbye, but it sounds like despite the challenges that your family has faced and that you have personally faced, you are intentionally choosing joy and finding glimmers and taking time to honor your own needs, which
right.
is so important and is going to serve her when she gets older because she's going to be like, "Oh, I know things are stressful, but I can journal or I can color or I
Yeah.
can," right? Um I'm curious about how that has sort of helped shape your relationship with her. Do you feel like do you feel like you guys kind of I don't wanna say, like, bond over these coping skills, but do you find that you choose self-care as a way to connect?
Well, the coloring is kind of a twofold thing because, like, one of the skills she was struggling with was staying in the lines, that's kind of a skill they were wanting, so getting her to practice, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about it that way, but just if nothing else, just doing things with her.
Yeah.
Um, Another way I guess that we kind of have bonded and do that is like she loves to play at the park. And so we have several parks around here that are her favorites that we'll take turns going to. There's a few that I really love because we make it fair. I let her have some playtime, but then I like to get my steps in. So two that so far that we really like that have a huge path with a pond so we can see ducks and things like that. And so, we'll have the rule of like I'll let her play for X amount of time, but then we'll do one lap around the pond. So I get my steps in. So and she'll go on the walk with me. So
Yeah, I love that so much. The theme sometimes these like themes come up when I'm talking with a guest and like the overarching theme with you really is that self-care and that balance between caring for others, being a caregiver
mhm.
while also meeting your own needs. And I think that's a deficit that a lot of parents and mothers are facing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's been good for my husband too. Like he doesn't necessarily always do the workout home with videos because they are fast paced. But I've encouraged him, like like my trainer Leslie says on the video, like even if you just walk the whole time to the beat of the music, it's not the steps. There's 4 steps that she does, and then just does combinations of them. But the whole thing is just keeping to this the tempo of the music that you're walking to. And if you did that for 45 minutes, that's better than just sitting on the couch eating bonbons, right? But
Yes.
he may not do the workout with me, but one thing he does do is, he sometimes when I'm working out, that's when he's doing his, he had some problems with one of his knees from a fall a few years ago. And so one thing he's been doing is going back to doing his exercises that he did learn. Like, again, it's like, those different seasons, like you go through one season, it doesn't mean that so in this case, the asset of learning all those different exercises are still something he can still do to keep moving. So when I'm doing my workout, he'll go through his exercises, he'll lift some of his weights. So it's something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I
So
don't
we're
know,
kind of doing it together. So
you
I'll
are.
be, yeah, and he'll be kind of doing it to the beat of the music. So it's kind of cute. So I'll be in the living room with my video blaring, and he'll be doing his thing. So, but yeah, so it's good.
I do. I love that there is such emphasis on caring for yourself while also making space for caring for others.
Hmm.
Um,
Mind,
yeah,
body, soul.
exactly.
It's a tripod. You can't have one without the other. There's just no
Yeah.
way. There's no way.
No. No. So throughout this whole thing, and I think I may anticipate the answer to this just a little bit. Did you have a theme that comes up every season for us is community and the village that we're all promised as
Yeah,
parents that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
necessarily exist. Did you have a village behind you through these seasons?
Um, the biggest one for 2020, since we were so remote, and still somewhat, with my career, obviously, has been the mastermind I've been trained in, and my coach, my email marketing coach, my productivity coach, and my business coach. So shout out Rebecca, Faith, and Anna. Love you. And their communities, because a lot of them, especially the mastermind that my business coach Faith runs, a lot of them are moms, and they get it. They have or they're caregivers too, maybe not in the same capacity I am. Maybe it's more like special needs or something like that, but still they get it. They get it. And when we were just going through so much, I mean, they just were really behind me and they still are. So, so they're not just friends, they're another family. And then, our church has been wonderful. Our pastors, have just, they actually just are, our senior pastor and his wife, who also does the, who does the zero through, or excuse me, birth through kindergarten, department. They have just been such good friends too. They've just been really, really supportive of us through this storm, continuing to pray, and just
Yeah.
of everything, right from the beginning when Daryl started getting sick. And so it has just been so good to
Yeah.
have that to have that, because I don't know how we would survive. Yeah, in our church, and then and we are in season now where we started going to a life group, and so the people that we've met in our life group have just been instrumental because they're more our peers, they're people that are our age, and so that's been wonderful. So I'd say the supports, and then our family has always been supportive, just praying for us, but my family especially. But yeah, I think it's been kind of, I think the support systems are really kind of kicking in now, which is great because we're not so remote now.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'd say there's been a few though that even through that remote phase that have just really been in the back pocket, and I'm so grateful for that because again, it had to be kind of non-traditional for what we were going through the time that we were in anyway. Um, so thank goodness.
Yeah. I think what resonates most throughout hearing you talk about all of these seasons in your life is that things can be really, really, really challenging. And with the right tools and with the right support, you can hold space for the grief and you can hold space for those moments where you're like, why is this happening? Like, what else is gonna happen? What did
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
do? But you can also take actionable steps to prioritize yourself so that you can be your best self for your daughter, for you, for your husband, for your family. And that's such a good reminder. It's it's not easy. It's not easy to remember. It's not easy. You can always find an excuse to be like, "Oh, I don't have time for this," or "Oh, I don't have the energy for this." But it can be things as simple as journaling. It can be something as simple as praying. It can be something as inclusive with your children as coloring. Like, so I love and I can feel the joy when you're talking about it. So whereas, yes, life has handed you a deck that was not what you anticipated and certainly not what anyone, like, deserves to go through, like, one challenge after another, you you acknowledge that, and you still seek the glimmers in life, which I
yeah.
admire. I admire that.
Yeah, thank you. It's not easy. I like what you said about the grief commingled with the joy and peace. And it's so interesting in the devotional I'm actually going through right now is like on one of the days, the lesson focused on about how peace isn't passive,
Mm,
it's actionary, it's proactive. And so finding peace sometimes might mean getting out of your comfort zone. Finding peace might take action. And so finding peace for me definitely is being proactive with spending time every day with the Lord, doing my devotional journaling and prayer time and listening to music. Being proactive means investing in my health. And now, doing that, putting in the time for those 45-minute workouts 5, 6 days a week, doing my hinge regimes at least 5 days a week, drinking a lot of water, so hence the reusable water
yes,
bottle.
we've got our water bottles, yes.
being proactive with finding peace might be just plotting my own way and figuring out, going with what's in my gut and heart of doing an unconventional career, figuring that out. Finding peace might mean just surrendering the timeline. I don't know how long it's going to take, but whatever it takes is how long ever it's going to take. Finding peace might mean seeking the support of having conversations with people that you trust. I've personally done that. I actually did have a sit down with two. We have two female pastors on our staff at our church. We go to a pretty big church, and I just value them. They're a lot older and they're moms. One of them is a grandmother now because her children are grown, but then the other one, she has two still at home and two that are grown. And
Yeah.
so she can really speak to that season. And so having women of faith, strong women of faith, especially since I'm in a season two where both my parents are gone. I'm only 40 and both my parents are gone. So looking for other resources of support from people that you trust, be it people in your family or people outside your family or outside of your or within your congregation of faith, whether you're Jewish, Christian, Hindu, I don't care, is important too, because you need that. Because again, it goes back to that tripod of, mind, body, soul. You need all three to make it work. And just because you're in a season where you're struggling to find that peace, it doesn't mean that's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that's going to come on I like the analogy that the devotional writer that I'm going through talked about. She said, finding peace doesn't mean that you're just going to sit on the couch and just wait for the skies to open and for it to hit. It doesn't work that way. It
No.
really doesn't. I mean,
No.
I know we read about stories about that in the Bible where the Lord did speak to people in very profound ways, like Jacob's ladder and things like that. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to be that kind of interaction. It might just be like just a little nudge of like someone saying, "Hey, you're struggling with this. Oh, I have a contact. I have someone that would. I have an idea for you, or I have a contact that would be someone I think that could help you with this. It's not my field of expertise, but I know somebody that can. It might be just taking the chance of like, oh, like with the Hinge app. It was
Yeah.
I already do my cardio with Leslie, but the fact I could get like the benefit, it's no cost. It's like
Mhm.
what because of the insurance I have, it's a perk of no cost. I get a health coach, I get a physical therapist, and they have stuff designed for pelvic floor repair. And I'm like, that is something that I have not addressed
Mhm.
postpartum. So taking advantage of those resources when you have them is by far not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's better to use what's available to you and to even seek out things that are available to you that you may not
Mhm.
realize. Yeah, I've enjoyed being able to hear your story, hear your perspective, because it really is packed with useful tools and resources that could work for anyone. You don't have to be a person of faith. You don't have to be a person who you don't have to love coloring. You don't have to love music. There honestly,
No,
everything you're doing, there's something for everybody.
right? And even
Yes.
and even, I mean, I hope the ideas that I shared just maybe even spark your own ideas. I mean, because I gave a list, but if that
Yeah.
item that sparks you is not on my list, I don't care, go for it.
Yeah.
Just do something.
Do
It's
something
better
for
to do
you.
something than nothing at all. And there's no, when we're handed that life deck like you were talking about, there's no right or wrong way. Okay. What works for me is not going to work for Chelsea, and what works for Chelsea is not going to work for any number of people who are listening to this episode when it
Yeah.
drops. So I hope whoever is listening is just walking away with the encouragement of find out what works for you. And it's okay if you try things and they totally flop, whether that's with career, whether that's with hobbies, whether that's with workouts. One thing I will say about my workout system is like I am 40, y'all, and I finally have been consistent for like the last 2 to 3 years with consistent exercise. I would never have thought I could do that, and I'm getting ready to do walk a marathon with my brother next month again. We did one last year, but I'm really excited now to see how I do with this one. So it's never too late to start. It's never too late
Mm-mm.
to start, and it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. And just because you failed in the past, or maybe not failed, but maybe you tried something and it flopped, doesn't mean that you're not going to find, and that doesn't mean that if it doesn't work now that what works that what doesn't work now won't work in the future. It might take a few years. It took me 30 some years to figure out what works for me for devotional time and exercise time, but I'm still here and I've still stuck with it. And that's the important thing to keep going.
Yeah. Before I wrap us up, because you've done an amazing job addressing our listeners, if they want to follow along your journey or to just kind of see what you are up to, what's the best way to find you?
I'd say the best way for right now would be to hit my website. It's www.caregivingentrepreneurshipreimagine.com. That's my business website.
Okay.
If they specifically want to talk about coming up with a plan for self-care, because that is a bracket of what I teach with my caregiver manual framework, which is observing, documentation, reporting, preparation, and then the last one is self-care. I do offer free caregiver clarity calls for 30 minutes where basically we just sit down over Google Meet and I just help you come up with a plan for tackling your wellness journey.
I love that.
And so that's something I could offer for free that will get you your foot in the door. And also subscribe to my newsletter. It's a bit sporadic right now because I'm kind of have my hands in other things because, like I said, I'm kind of trying to do some other junkets for generating income a little faster in other ways. That I feel are important, but I have other stuff coming. So definitely do that. Or if you want, you can always email me if you want to just hijack at that. Just shoot me an email at my business email at melissamiller@tyrosupermom.com, tyrosupermom.com. And just mention that you are a listener from Chelsea's podcast, and that you wanted to follow up and that you want to chit chat, and I could create a link for us and we can have a Google chat that way too. So that'd be another option. So.
That so much. Those will be linked in your show notes so listeners can easily toggle to the show notes and find those. I have been switching up how I end my episodes and I'm loving the results I'm getting. Um so you've done an amazing job of addressing the listeners as a group and giving some really, really great tips and tricks of what might work for them or what could work for you. And I'm going to ask that you narrow down your scope. And obviously, you have no idea who this person is going to be, but my next guest, whoever my next guest is, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what season of
Mm,
parenthood they're going through.
mm,
But I want you to leave them a message. Leave a message from Melissa to the mom who comes next. What would your message be?
okay. Well, hey there, Mama. I'm Melissa Miller. I haven't met you, but I wanted to just leave this little message for you of encouragement. I don't know what you're facing, but I just hope that you know that someone else sees you, because I know as being a mom or a caregiver or any other role that you could tack on, that sometimes it feels like you are invincible, that you're pouring out your heart and soul for everybody else, but you're kind of feeling like no one sees me. Like, does anyone not see that I'm struggling, or that I need help, or that I'm trying my hardest to do my most utmost due diligence to meet the needs of my children, to meet the needs of my spouse or partner, to meet the needs of my clients or whatever I have going on, or to even meet the needs of myself. I just want you to know that you're doing a good job and that you are not alone in this journey, and that there's people out there that are willing to help you, even if it is virtually. Sometimes I know for me that sometimes, especially I'd say within the last 5 years, it's been remote connections via a telehealth appointment, or a DM on social media, or an email, or a phone call, or a video chat has been the way to keep me connected to people that I trust, and I have that connection of feeling seen and heard. And I encourage you to not be afraid to leverage technology to help you stay sane, because sometimes we're in seasons where we do need to be home with our children, whether they're sick or we're sick, or maybe there's just some other sort of trauma or complicated situation that we're going through, that it just is not a good idea to go out in the public, or we just don't have the bandwidth to deal with a lot of people, like a crowded room or something like that. So wherever you fall on that spectrum, you're seen, you're heard, you're doing a beautiful job, you're doing the best you can, and that's all that God or anybody can ask of you. And I just hope that you know that that you are seen and that you matter. And so this is just me giving you a little virtual hug. And I don't know, maybe we'll meet if our paths cross. I would love to meet you. If not, just know that somebody took a moment to say hello and that I care and that I'm acknowledging you.
That is beautiful. And I love this. I love this. And I'm going to keep doing it because these messages are messages that every parent needs to hear. So thank you for sharing that with my next guest. Thank you for sharing your story with me and all the things that bring you joy and bring you comfort. It has been an absolute joy getting to know you a little bit today. So thank you.
I love this. This is my favorite thing. It's what I love to do on my podcast over. It's nothing, there's something about just, I'll leave with this. There's something about just intentional conversation. And I hope that whatever I've shared has felt like an intentional conversation where we have just sat with either our bottles of water or your favorite beverage, and you're just chatting with one of your girlfriends and just being able to say, hey, and say, what's up? What's going on? How can I support you? And, or if nothing else, you're in a safe place where you feel like you can just unpack it all, whether it's crying, through tears, journaling, whatever you're facing. So that's all this is. It's just a coffee chat with some friends.
I'm so grateful to Melissa for sharing her story with us. Her journey is a powerful reminder that healing takes time, that caregiving truly matters, and that peace is something we choose and practice every day. If her story resonated with you, please share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, you can find resources and more conversations like this at our website, quietconnectionpodcast.com, or on social media at Quiet Connection Podcast or Quiet Connection Pod. If you'd like to share your journey, my inbox is open at quietconnectionppmh@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Join us next time when another story is told and you realize you are not alone. I see you.